It's not going to happen.
Mrs. Trump, your op-ed in the FT was just mentioned already. Before we get a little bit deeper into that, I would like to take a minute to clarify something. You're the first daughter of the United States, and you're also an assistant to the U.S. President. As a part of the audience, especially the German audience, is not that familiar with the concept of a first daughter, I'd like to ask you, what is your role, and whom are you representing? Your father as the President of the United States, the American people, or your business?
Well, certainly not the latter, and I am rather unfamiliar with this role as well, as it is quite new to me. It has been a little under 100 days, but it has just been a remarkable and incredible journey. So, you know, as an entrepreneur and as an individual prior to this in the private sector, I cared very much about empowering women in the workplace. And the opportunity to have an elevated platform to be able to sit here on the stage, and thank you, Chancellor, for your very gracious invitation. I'm humbled to be here with so many formidable leaders to engage in dialogue, to learn, to bring the advice, to bring the knowledge back to the United States, back to both my father and the President, and hopefully that will bring about incremental positive change, and that is my goal. So this is very early for me. I'm listening, I'm learning, I'm defining the ways in which I think that I'll be able to have impact. I'm seeking the counsel, to use your word, of informed and thoughtful women and men. And I'm really striving to think about how best to empower women in the economy, both domestically and across the globe, because it's all interrelated. So it's been wonderful to date, and I have no doubt that coming out of this trip, I'll be all the more informed.
You wrote an op-ed in the Financial Times today where you wrote, "We know what works regarding women in business." And if we know what works, first question, why don't we do it? And the second question, are you sure that what works for you as a first daughter will also work for every other woman in the world?
No, I think we represent 50% of the population, so there is no one size fits all when you think about women in the workplace or women as job creators. And then you have the cultural overlay, which differs from country to country, from region to region, within countries. There are enormous problems. I feel fortunate in America that those problems are less than in other areas of the world when we think about gender inequality, but we still have formidable problems in our own right. When you think about the fact that 30% of U.S. privately owned businesses are women businesses, that leaves tremendous potential for growth and for engagement. Of that 30%, only 16% of those businesses have employees beyond the owner. So when you think about the potential women have, both to expand as entrepreneurs and to become more robust employers with our economy, it's incredibly exciting. There's a lot of wood to chop, and we're not right there. We're not there yet. And I think one of the interesting things is the problems are identifiable. We know what they look like, and they're the same across the globe, just with varying degrees of severity. The solutions and the tactical means to get to the right outcome will differ. And I think one of the great opportunities we have as we travel and as we talk to knowledgeable and informed people is to find out what's worked in their countries and cultures. I know that Chancellor Merkel, just this past March, you passed an equal pay legislation to promote transparency and to try to finally narrow that gender pay gap. And that's something we should all be looking at to see the efficacy of that policy as it gets rolled out. So this is a robust, dynamic, and ever-moving discussion. It's a political discussion. It's policy-oriented as we think about paid leave. Sadly, the United States is one of the only countries in the world, the only developed country in the world that doesn't have a paid leave policy for the benefit of families. So that is something I'm very, very proud of my father's advocacy. Long before he came into the presidency, but during the campaign, including in the primaries. He's been a tremendous champion of supporting families and enabling them to thrive in the new reality of
you hear the reaction from the audience. So I need to address one more point. Some attitudes towards women your father has publicly displayed in former times might leave one questioning whether he's such an empower for women. How do you relate to that? Or are things changing? Or what's your comment on that?
I've certainly heard the criticism from the media, and that's been perpetuated. But I know from personal experience, and I think the thousands of women who have worked with and for my father for decades when he was in the private sector are a testament to his belief and solid conviction in the potential of women and their ability to do the job as well as any man. So I think in my personal experience, and you were asking me about my role as daughter and also advisor, as a daughter, I can speak on a very personal level, knowing that he encouraged me and enabled me to thrive. I grew up in a house where there was no barriers to what I could accomplish beyond my own perseverance and my own tenacity. And I don't take that lightly as a parent now myself. That's not an easy thing to do, and he did that, and he provided that for us. There was no difference for me and my brothers. And I think as a business leader you saw that, and as a president you will absolutely see that.
We will be curious and watching. Thank you. Mrs. Leibinger-Kamiller, you are an example how a woman can successfully run a business. You inherited and took over a long-standing family-owned business. Do you think you would have become an entrepreneur either way, regardless of your family history?
I don't think so. I have to be honest. And I'll switch into German now because Chancellor Merkel and I agreed that we are on German grounds and we are Germans, deshalb sprechen wir Deutsch. Also, gut.